what is good, ladies and gentlemen? It is the Mass Comparer back again with another comparison, and today we are doing a comparison between the Brutalist and the Lorax. This is another polar opposite comparison that I thought would be pretty good after I finished watching the Brutalist. So yeah, we are going to be doing this one. I do have to go, so I have to be somewhere in 20 minutes, and I don't know how late I'm going to get back from where I'm going to. So I decided I'm just going to do the recording now, and then I'll do the editing later. So it doesn't really concern you guys, but you know, just keeping you all in the loop. So anyway, let's begin starting off with the protagonist. So in the Brutalist, you have Laszlo Toth, and then in the Lorax, you have Ted. I forgot his last name, but I'm going to give the protagonist to the Brutalist. Laszlo Toth is a more interesting protagonist, the struggle he faces when, meanwhile, in the Lorax, Ted. You can also say that the Onceler is kind of the protagonist, but I'm going to say the main protagonist is, I guess you could also say it's the Lorax, but still, I think Laszlo Toth, the struggle that he faces, like, throughout the movie of, like, him as a protagonist, it's like, he's a very sympathetic character, and it's like you do feel bad for like everything that he is going through. So I'm just going to give the protagonist. Personally, I liked Laszlo Toth better than I think Ted is the main character of the Lorax. I think like you could say it is the Lorax himself, or you could say it's the Onceler, but I'm just going to call it Ted. So anyway, the antagonist. This is between Harrison and Mr. O'Hare, and I'm going to give it to Harrison because he definitely feels like much more of a maybe not more of an antagonist, because O'Hare feels like much more cartoonishly evil, but Harrison, like he is more evil. Like he does end up like raping Laszlo towards the end of the film, so it just that alone like makes it much more of a like he feels more evil, and he also tries to like deny it. He ends up like he manipulates like the people around him and stuff. It's like he pretends to be like he pretends to care for like Laszlo and stuff, and like he's all nice to him, but then really he looks down on him, not just him but also his son and stuff. So I just thought he was like O'Hare is just he's very like comically evil. It's like, oh, I don't want there to be any trees so I can profit and make money and stuff, and that's like his only motivation. So in terms of the side cast, I'm going to give this to probably the Lorax. I'm going to give it to the Lorax because it depends who you consider the side cast, but in here in the Brutalist, like who is the side cast? Like there's Gordon, I think his name was, and other than that, you have like, I don't know, Elizabeth, Sophia, and they were fine, but like in the Lorax, you do have like if you do consider the Onceler to be part of the side cast, like he's good, he's great. The Lorax himself is also a great character. Granny Norma, she's very good. Who else? Ted's mom, like the forest animals and stuff, like they're just much more entertaining to watch compared to like the side cast of the Brutalist. So I personally like the side cast of Lorax better. They're more memorable in my opinion. So in terms of the settings, I'm gonna give it to the Lorax because I think that just the forest is just much nicer, and like the actual setting of Needville itself, it's like much more unique compared to just like the 1940s and 50s of I think it was Pennsylvania. So yeah, I'm gonna give the setting to the Lorax. I think it looked nicer. In terms of the rules of the world, the Brutalist doesn't really have any rules. It's basically just real. Takes place in like the real world and stuff, so there's no rules really that go on with the movie. So I'm just going to give this by default to the Lorax because the rules of that are basically that the Lorax exists, and certain animals can like they're more they're smarter than I guess animals in the real world. So I think those are the main rules. So I think that it kind of just wins by default, but you know, it's not bad. Like the Lorax existence is pretty cool. So it's the main selling point of the movie, I guess. So in terms of the plot, I'm going to give the plot to the plot. This is a tough one because they're both pretty good plots. Like I think the Lorax of like Ted trying to bring trees back, like, and then finding out about like the Onceler, like his past and stuff. That is pretty good. And then but then you have the Brutalist where it's like. You have Laszlo, and it's like it's like the struggles of like an immigrant in America, and like how it actually turns out the reality of like the American dream of what it was. So I'm gonna give it, I think, to the Lorax. It was just like it's more memorable, and it's also just like slightly more interesting with like the Onceler's backstory and his like descent into greed and stuff. I thought it was better than, I still think that like Laszlo's like the whole plot of like him like getting. He's with Attila, and then Attila blames him and stuff, and so he gets casted aside. But then Mr. Harrison, because he sees that like the potential that he has, he like uses Laszlo, and then things go wrong. So Laszlo once again takes the blame. Then some months go by, and then he ends up once again Harrison hires him, and then he once again becomes a victim, like in a very graphic sense, and then there was, and then finally like it's basically, and then he also suffers like his wife like with being sick and stuff. So it's just it's good, but I think that the Lorax is just, it's a more interesting plot. Like it's a very, it's more, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's like, it's just, I don't know, more not, what's the word, it's easier to digest maybe, like that might be it. But I don't know, I just personally, I think the Lorax plot, it's like something I'd rather rewatch more often. It's like easier to watch, and which doesn't necessarily make it better, but it's like, I do think that the Lorax plot is just slightly more entertaining to watch. So the cultural impact, I'm giving this to the Lorax. It is much more iconic at this point than the Brutalist, which only came out last year, which did get a lot of attention because it was one of the award nominees, I think, for the Oscars and stuff. But definitely the Lorax has more of a cultural impact, so I'm giving it to that. In terms of what adults would like more, I'm guessing the Brutalist. I think like more adults would probably, I don't know, I feel like adults would probably still, I don't know how much adults would want to watch the Lorax, so I'm just going to say the Brutalist. For kids, obviously, they would want to watch the Lorax more often, so I'm going to give it to the Lorax. In terms of what clothing is better, okay, so this is a good one because the Onceler, he's got the drip. Like when he's wearing the green outfit and stuff, like it looks really nice. It looks really good. So that is really nice clothing. But then you do have Laszlo, like towards it, like when he is like in his like worker uniform, when he is working on like the project for Mr. Harrison, it's like he does have like some really nice clothing. So and it all like very much suits like the 1950s and stuff. So it was good. So I'm gonna actually give a point to both because I did like the clothing of both. I did like the clothing of both. I like the clothing of both movies. Like I thought that they were good. So in terms of which was the better drama, that's a tough one. I think I'm not sure. I think probably they were both pretty dramatic. It's like I guess the drama of the Lorax comes from like once again the Onceler, like his descent into greed and stuff, and like him being like going from like a person that is a genuinely good person to becoming like someone that like is willing to do whatever it takes to make more money. And then it also comes from like Ted and his mission to like plant a tree in the middle of town with O'Hare trying to stop him. And then this one, and then the drama of the Brutalist is like Laszlo like just facing the harsh realities of like America at the time for an immigrant. So that's a good one. I don't know what the better drama would be. I'm gonna give a point to both, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know how smart it is to give a point to both. Like this is actually coming out to be pretty close. So I never actually thought what would happen if this ends up coming out in a tie. So I don't think it's gonna come out as a tie. So and I'm not gonna now start thinking about what to do if it is a tie. But I will, after this video, I'll actually try to think of what to do in a future scenario where there's a tie. So anyway, in terms of equipment, which one has better equipment? I'm going to give this to the Lorax because there's no unique equipment that really comes from the Brutalist. It is just I don't know, architecture tools maybe. That's it. But in the Lorax, you do have like the giant machines that the Onceler ends up using to cut down the trees and stuff. So it is better, and not just that. Like Ted's bike is also pretty unique and stuff. So the Lorax has like just more unique stuff for it. In terms of actors, I'm going to give it definitely to the Brutalist. I think that the acting in the Brutalist was 100% just great. I do think that the Lorax had good voice actors, like Ed Helms as the Onceler was good. Who else? Danny DeVito as the Lorax. Like I think that they were good voice actors, but I don't think that the acting compares to like just Adrian Brody as Laszlo. Just did fantastic performance, and I loved it. It was great. All the rage scenes of like characters getting upset and stuff, it was just really good. So I'm going to give the actors to the Brutalist. In terms of personally what I like better, probably I like the Lorax a bit better. It's not a bit better, like a decent amount better. I think that the Lorax is a better film. Okay, maybe not. I was thinking about this a bit yesterday. Like this, when I give my ratings about stuff, it's kind of like just what I like, and I don't necessarily think that it's like what objectively makes it a better film. Because like if we're talking about what is objectively the better film, it's like probably the Brutalist, but it's. But then again, there is no objectivity, so it's like I don't really know. But like if I give a film, like if I say like, oh, this is like my favorite thing, it's like a 9.5. Like that, I don't think that necessarily means, like in my personal opinion, that doesn't mean necessarily that I think this is like the best thing ever made. But then it's like in my personal opinion, it's the best thing ever made. So it gets confusing where it's like, where do you draw the line between like what you think is personally good compared to what you think is like objectively good, but then there is no such thing as like objectivity, so it gets kind of weird. But anyway, personal opinion, I give it a I think that the Lorax was more enjoyable, so I like the Lorax better, so I'm going to give the personal point to the Lorax. In terms of which had the better soundtrack, definitely the Lorax had a bunch of banger songs. How Bad Can I Possibly Be? Let It Grow, that was a good one. Let's see what else. Everybody Needs a Thief, that was good. There's some good bangers in there. The Brutalist doesn't really have any memorable soundtrack moments that I can really remember. No songs that, like, there were some songs in it, but nothing that I really stood out and that I remembered. So, and finally, the visuals. I'm going to give this to the Brutalist. I thought that there were some, I did mention this, I think, in my review. I thought that there were some very nice visuals. I did actually really like a lot of the shots of the Brutalist. It all looked very nice. I did very much like the Brutalist shots. So, and the Lorax is animated, but I wouldn't say there were never like any real like artistic shots of like during the Lorax. Maybe there were, but not that I can remember. Anyway, I think the visuals of the Brutalist were slightly better. So anyway, this is actually the closest, I think, up to this point that a comparison has gone, and this might actually end up being a tie. So let's see. The Lorax gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the Brutalist gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. Okay, so the winner is the Lorax, and it is 11-7 in favor of the Lorax. So that is the closest that we've gotten so far with the comparison. And I do actually have to come up with like a way to like what to do if there ends up being a tie. Maybe I'll add like an extra category or something. So yeah, so anyway, that is yeah, so that was the comparison of the Brutalist versus the Lorax. And yeah, if you have any recommendations, any movies, shows, anime, web series, video game stories, anything that you want me to review or rank or do comparisons for, leave it in the comments and I will maybe possibly check it out. But with that said, that is pretty much all there is to it, so let's leave it at that.